Hello and welcome to today's Slop topic, the new series where I have opinions about things, and thusly I will play Deep Rock Galactic for content, and you guys get to watch it while I tell you about my feelings. Today we are joined by Kagami.
Hello, the following footage is real. It is live footage.
And thusly...
Prove it's live.
Okay, prove it's live.
Good job, wow.
So this will be heavily spliced. Please enjoy the gameplay as you can see it, and we will be telling you about our feelings towards Despicable Me 4.
Spoilers for every Despicable Me movie.
Welcome, fools, kingdom of fools, people of fools. I am Effam, your amazing host that you all know and love, and I'm here to give you some slop topics, as I have opinions on a movie for children.
Right wheel. And I'm Kagami.
This is Kagami, my co-host for today, as we made the horrendous decision of watching the Despicable Me 4 movie together.
We sure did.
So, I've put together a set of topics to discuss about this movie, of why it is a bit weird, not up to scratch with the rest of the movies, and why it kind of itched me the wrong way. So, let's just get started, you know?
Alright, how about we just go for a general topic?
Okay, go for it.
Would you say the movie was worth being made?
This is kind of a conclusive question that we'd sort of do at the end. However, it's perfectly fine to do at the start. I think, of course, there is perfect reason for there to be a Despicable Me 4 movie. There is so much you can do with the IP, even without adding new stuff. There's so many concepts within the villainy, the funny gadgets that Gru holds, and just the amount of things you can do with a horde of yellow-pilled little
In the first film, they were used like in a fair amount of ways. They were more used as background, while the main content would be Gru.
Well, the minions in the first movie, they had a much bigger role. They built machinery, they had work. He took a lot more of them on his first mission, I believe. Although my memory's kind of hazy on that. He's always at least had 3. The main thing is that there's a constant 3 that get to live around the house and be with Gru on missions. But the rest of them just kind of make funny little gadgets. I remember in the Vector heisting experience, he took, I think, 2, and then used a bunch of Dr. Nefario gadgets in order to best Vector. So the minions have certainly been the main force, but the background little guys.
In the later films, they are more used because, you know, they were more marketed. People like them. People just like them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in 3 they had that funny little side plot where they went to jail, and that kind of just allowed them to be out of the movie for the main plot, but still have a funny little presence, which was good. It was acceptable. And then they came in and helped at the end, which is kind of similar to what happens in Despicable Me 4, the one we are talking about today. Just to remind everyone. So, can we talk about Despicable Me 4, please?
Alright, let's talk the beginning of the film.
The opening sequence. I absolutely loved it on first watching. Got a nice opening. I kind of thought it wasn't Gru that was in the starting car, because we usually have the movie start off with the villain being introduced, but no. Gru comes in on his little car with amazing music made by Pharrell Williams that just absolutely rocks.
Every Star film features the villain in the beginning scene. Like, for example, the first film had Vector. Well, didn't really have Vector, but like had like the pyramid.
Oh yeah, it did, didn't it?
The second film it had the iceberg, and like there's like this giant magnet that comes up.
Oh yeah.
And then it cuts to the AVL watching the magnet.
Oh yeah, and that's how we get introduced to the AVL. The thing is, on that logic, for 4, we have the intro where Gru goes to a villain reunion. Apparently, we weren't told about this as any previous movies, but apparently Gru attended a villain school where I suppose he learned villainy, and they had regular school activities like a school talent show. But in this reunion, which apparently none of the other villains notice Gru is a good guy, Gru manages to take down our initial villain without really learning what the initial villain's gimmick is. He shows his AVL, our Maxime guy shows off that he's got a cockroach body, And that's about all we get for the intro. I'll get you, Gru, that sort of screw you bad guy intro.
Yeah.
While pretty cool and interesting that he went on this mission, I found it particularly weird story-wise.
How so?
Well, it is established in the beginning of Despicable Me 3 by our opponent in that, the Bubblegum Man, that everyone already knows Gru is a anti-villain league. It states, now you're the world's worst agent. And by the fact that we have this villain school, it is pretty well established that the villain world, you know, is kind of well connected. They know each other.
Yeah.
So, you know, people would talk. So if one guy knows it, why wouldn't a bunch of other villains know it? Why is Gru just able to walk in on his old villain reunion? Shouldn't he just be expelled? Because he's unvillained now. So all of these villains are at this villain school. None of them stop Gru. And all the anti-villain league does is come in for our main villain. Which is kind of weird, because they have the opportunity to go and take everyone else. Are they all just exempt because they want one guy?
What about the other villains in the past? Were they part of this school?
Yeah, it was never established when this school was made.
What age do you have to go to this school? Because there has been a scene in the second film where a flashback of Gru trying to confess their love to someone.
Isn't that a public school? Yeah.
It's like a normal public school.
So is villain school something that children get to also do on the side because they want to be villainous? How'd you apply? Who applied them? Was it the mother?
That doesn't make sense as well, because his mum never really cared. Gru lore, that's kind of not consistent. Which is
very
annoying.
not consistent. I want to enjoy this lore that they're giving, but they don't. They have so many plot holes, which is really annoying. So yeah, the intro is weird story-wise, but visually and thematically, it's pretty cool to see him go on a mission. But there's just a few plot holes about the intro that really, again, itch me the wrong way.
I think another thing that's just confusing me is how does society see the minions? Do they just see them as like another people? Do they see them as Gru's minions? Or do they get like freaked out? Because in the villain school, but they should know they should probably are Gru's, and if they knew that it was Gru's, then Gru would have been automatically, Gru's here, so we're gonna kick him out.
Yeah, the minions should have been a major giveaway, but it's also not established how people perceive the minions, because it seems that the humans just kind of ignore them and either treat them as children, like, oh, you're a cute little child, or they're treated as adults that just appear. There's just a bunch of these mini little guys. Because with the start of 3 and the butler refers to the minions as just like, idiots. So does he think that they're just people? Does he just accept that the minions exist?
Another thing in the 3 was Ramsbottom's retirement. They tried to build up like an emotional thing, and they showed, okay, this is their new replacement.
Of which the new replacement didn't actually do anything. I don't know why they retired Ramsbottom. It was just a scene in order to have someone mean get rid of Gru. I think that was it.
So they established, okay, this is a new person that is running the AVL. Does this carry over to the 4th one? Do we see this woman? No.
What happens at the beginning of 4 is it's all ignored, and Ramsbottom just decides he's out from retirement, because apparently he can do that.
He's also the leader again. Like, what happened to the old woman? What happened to her? And what happened to other characters as well? Like Drew from the 3rd film.
Because of the fact that Drew is no longer doing his pig farming crap, it is established that he is a villain, and Gru gets to chase him down for however long it takes for the 4th film to come out. But when it comes to the 4th film, Drew is treated like family, it appears. As Ramsbottom, who should be in retirement by the way, explains while driving away the family to their safe house that no family can be in contact with Gru and his family, which includes Drew, that he is mentioned by name, that he cannot be involved with anything.
Drew, Nefario.
Nefario isn't actually mentioned by name, I don't think so. But the minions certainly aren't allowed to be with Gru, which is an interesting choice. It just kind of removes them entirely instead of giving them a really cool subplot.
Yeah, and with this moving away, that means he has to live another life.
Welcome to the segment where we talk about the double life, where Gru has to live as a boring man, but also having all of the villainy knowledge in his head. For some reason, he is scared by the villain that he just took down, because he has cockroach arms.
And he also broke out of a prison.
Speaking of which, I think the fact that Gru was incredibly scared by this is kind of stupid. Gru is really dumbed down as a pathetic man in this one, and I really don't like it. In the previous movies, when he would come across like getting punched in the face, he'd stand back up, be all right, and then punch them back. In this one, he just kind of takes it and complains.
Like, why this time is he running away? Oh, because his child is gonna get caught?
It's not been a problem before. Gru is very much capable of defending his own, but this time he just gets thrown into a safe house for some reason.
We actually have no scene in the film where a cockroach man goes to Gru's actual house. There's no scene like that in the film.
Oh yeah, the cockroach man says, "I know where you live, Gru," but we don't actually see any scene of him checking the house and being, huh? Gru isn't here. Because he never actually goes out and checks. What happens is the angry grandma is just like, this is where Gru is. I have a trouble with him, and for some reason I know that you have a trouble with him, so let's go kill him.
Yeah.
There's a lot of plot points that seem to just not go anywhere, which is a main problem of the movie.
What about the other villains? They should know where Gru lives as well.
How connected is the villain world? We're not really told that.
Is Gru address been doxed? is he the meme of the villain world?
He stole the moon and the queen's jewels. Is that not impressive enough? He's done a bunch of impressive stuff, and you're telling me they just don't know who he is? He's allowed to go into a double life?
Apparently so. It's like, do people know of him, or do people not know of him?
He's pissed off a lot of villains. So at the very least, like 10 villains know him.
What is his reputation in this school?
He's certainly popular from the talent show.
According to other times in the previous films, he was never really liked.
He was supposed to be a loner, that his mother didn't care for him.
Yeah, no one really cared.
It's inconsistent what Gru's reputation is as well. So there's a lot of questions that make it really hard to tell whether or not Gru should even be noticed in that intro. Although he definitely should, because the whole talent show thing shows that everyone likes him because of that.
Why is Gru being liked? Why is he not just being booed? And like, why is this villain being jealous of him? This contradicts a bunch of things.
It does. Right, next point.
The thing with Despicable Me series at this time is there's so many characters now. We have the twins, we have Gru, we have Lucy, we have Dr. Nefario, and we have Drew, and we have the minions, and we have specific types of minions where it's like, okay, Mel is the leader.
Who has the Gru's number for some reason. Pick up the phone, baby.
Pick up the phone. Mel's on the phone.
Mel is calling. Will you pick up?
There's so many characters. There are so many characters.
The series is so overbloated that at this rate, they just keep adding characters as one-off jokes. In one of the scenes with the minions in 4, they introduce Carl, a veteran of the AVL that's supposed to be really tough and scare off the minions. He's the bus driver taking the minions to AVL so that they can be drafted into the war against villains. For some reason they're on board with this, which doesn't quite make sense because in 3 it's established that the minions like to be evil and were very happy to riot against Gru in order to go off and try and be evil on their own rights. But they're just okay with being part of the AVL because they're over that, I guess. Anyway, Carl is supposed to be this big character that they instantly give some lore for, and what do we get out of him? A 1-second joke where they beat him up and go into the AVL on their own accord anyway.
And he's never brought up again.
Never brought up again. Not even like an ending scene with him scratching his head because of brain trauma or something. There's also Smiling Joe or something. In the scene where they heist the old school, they are almost caught by a janitor with Mr. Smiley or something as his name.
Yeah, Mr. Smiley.
He exists as essentially a generic guard that has a unique design. When they're exiting the facility, he is shown for 1 second and then punted out the way. He's completely irrelevant, has no real story, no build-up, no release. He just exists and disappears.
Yes, and there's kind of just a lot of characters like that in this film, where even the girl, yeah, she has more of a role,
She's more of a plot device than an actual character. This character wants to be a villain and knows that Gru is a villain, so will abuse Gru in order to do something impressive and try and have themselves be a villain. Pretty cool story. What do they end up doing? Cause one scene of the school heist, and then help Gru get up to Maxime by flying their rich, expensive car that can fly.
And apparently she can drive basically perfectly, apparently. And then we have the baby.
The baby is kind of unnecessary. There's another thing. Our cockroach man only wants to steal the baby. Firstly, why does he know about the baby? Secondly, why does he only want to steal the baby? Gru has adopted children, which previous villains have held as a plot device. Like, I stole your baby, Gru, fuck you. The cockroach man wants to steal the baby in order to take revenge on Gru, but, you know, just decides all the children he has, he only wants one of them. That's all he wants, because that's the thing that's precious to him, so he needs to take revenge on it, because dance show or whatever. So, Kagami, Gru's baby, are they useful? Are they unnecessary? What are your thoughts?
They're in the middle.
Okay.
Where it's like, is this a character that's had to be there? It isn't really unique. It's another Drew situation.
Okay. So, with the baby, they have three main factors that kind of annoy me. One, our main villain only wants to steal the baby instead of the adopted children. Two, having a baby takes about 2 years to exist, and we don't see any sort of development from that with the rest of the children, who should be older, because it's been 2 years since the baby exists. None of the adopted children actually age throughout the movies, which is kind of weird, but possible, because logic, I guess. However, Ramsbottom gets to age for some reason, and Dr. Nefario clearly gets to age because Ryza Gru, and then Gru gets to age, but no one else does. Only select characters get to age. Gru's baby seems to add a story factor of Gru needs something additional that he can overcome with his family. However, he already has the factor that he needs to overcome his adopted children being okay with the double life sequence, which could have been a main focus, and that's all we really needed. It feels more like a marketing ploy that Gru has a child than any sort of significant story reason, as the story isn't really progressed at all by Gru's child, and Gru's child only exists as a plot device in the end sequence for Gru to have a reason to be super angry. In that final fight, spoilers again, the child becomes cockroachified, which means they are mind controlled. I have several problems with this, but we'll get into that later. Firstly, the cockroach man gets hold of Gru's child, turns him into cockroach, so now Gru's child is just a mindless slave that gets to fly and have cockroach powers. This means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. It is a ridiculous notion, because not only does Gru Jr. not actually fight against Gru, so he doesn't do any sort of like combat, it's only Cockroach Man versus Gru, but the whole mind control thing is instantly broken when Gru is about to fall off an edge and just looks at his child and says, "I love you, child." So the child mind controls itself, because apparently that's something it could have done, and punches Cockroach Man off of the building. It was completely irrelevant for all of this. This could have just been, say, the Mega Minions, the other selling point of the movie, coming in and saving the day. Maybe the flying one pushes off the Cockroach Man. So Cockroach Man gets pushed off, falls down, doesn't use any sort of flight, and then just collapses on the ground, where he's essentially already defeated, and the Mega Minions come in to finish him, which is the same thing in the way Mortal Kombat has the finish him feature. By that, I mean, it would not matter whether or not you finish him or not, because your opponent is already defeated. In this movie, Cockroach Man is already defeated, and then they finish him, do the funny animation where the Mega Minions just come in with their unique powers and punch him. Except they don't do anything, because the only one that actually deals damage directly is the fat crumbly minion. The rest of them have animals that they've tamed from going into retirement, and just use them instead. All of that was completely unnecessary. Cockroach Man already duped himself by not flying to save himself, which is something he very much has shown he can do. but just decides not to, I guess, and just is defeated. None of the factors are necessary for the plot to progress to a finishing move. Mega Minions didn't matter, and Cockroach Man being able to cockroachify the child is only so that they have a reason to fight directly. None of those factors actually play into the fight itself or the reason for this plot to even occur. Kagami, you are now allowed to add your thoughts.
I mean, you pretty much said everything there. Just babies. Just.
Let's talk about the fact that Gru doesn't use any funny gadgets in this movie. One of the main enjoyable factors for Despicable Me, personally, is the fact that Gru is this wacky villain that has wacky tools and his wacky minions in order to do a bunch of wacky things to do with villainy. It parodies villainy by doing a stupid version of it. You're gonna rob a bank? Instead of using a saw, use a minion with a fart gun to get rid of all of the guards. That's ridiculous. It's funny and fart jokes, so, you know, Illumination is happy. In Despicable Me 4, we didn't actually have any funny gadgets. None of them really occurred. In the final fight, even, of Despicable Me 3, we have the guitar gun that gets to, like, shoot the sound waves. And that changes hand between the villain and Gru in that final fight of Despicable Me 3. However, in Despicable Me 4, what we have is Gru has nothing, and Cockroach Man has a cockroach body, as well as a cockroach machine. Of which, the cockroach machine actually does more plot progression than Cockroach Man having a cockroach body. Gru doesn't get to play with any sort of funny gadgets, because I guess he just doesn't have his lab, and that kind of leads into the fact that he is having a double life, so he's not allowed to have his villainy items.
Yeah, that also plays a part in the heist where supposedly Gru brought the wrong bag. So that means, according to the movie, he does have that stuff with him.
He does have his funny gadgets, but the minions, just for plot reasons, remove the items. Thusly, Gru has to complete this heist only using baby tools. I love this scene. I actually think it's a great example of the double life coming into play within the story. Gru is unequipped for his thing because he has to live a life as a father. And as a result, when he actually has to do villainy, he is left with very little to work with. But because he's a smart mind and he is a smart villain, he is able to complete the heist using nappies as camera turn-offers, use a paperclip as a window cutter, which I have to suspend some disbelief on that one. He uses baby powder to find where some red lasers are so that he does not get detected. It's a great show that Gru is still capable of being that villain while having to be this father figure. However, it means that all of the movie relies on Gru trying to use alternate ways to still be the same villain. And that kind of doesn't work, because do you know what weapon Gru has the most use out of in the final fight? Do you remember?
Aside from the baby.
He doesn't use the baby as a weapon.
He doesn't use it. You can't use the baby as a weapon because the baby is its own character. The minions don't count either because, you know, they're their own entity as well.
Do you remember any sort of weapon that Gru uses in that final fight sequence?
What do you think, guys? Comment down below.
Comment down below.
Well, I sure don't have any idea.
Okay, I'll tell you what it is. He uses an iron bar from the construction site that they are on. He picks it out from the rubble of the ground and he swings it at Maxime a couple of times while being deflected by the Cockroach Man body. And then the barbed wire is cut in half. That is
amazing gadget. I love that gadget.
Amazing gadget. He doesn't use a single gadget. He has an improvised iron bar which he uses for 2 hits to defend himself a little, and then it does nothing. Where are the funny gadgets? The funny gadgets could have easily been substituted for the Mega Minions, and I would have been perfectly fine with that. But you know what happens with the Mega Minions? The second most marketable part about this movie? They don't do anything. Let's talk about the Mega Minions.
Mega Minions.
So, after Gru is put into the safe house in order to be protected from something that he very much, as a villain, could just defend himself from or chase down, because he's very clearly capable of doing that, the minions are drafted into the AVL, essentially working with them for some reason against their own will. but they don't care because they don't actually do any work, as we are shown by a specific scene of the AVL. What Ramsbottom, who should be in retirement, remember, wants with the minions is to turn them into the Mega Minions, a souped up a play on superheroes in order to mess with the sort of the villains are now the good guys feature. It turns 5 regular minions, including the amazing Dave the Minion. Gotta love that guy.
Love him in Minion Rush.
It turns them into a super strong minion who is actually just concrete minion, one that can fly and looks like a knobhead, and String Cheese Man. There is also Super Laser Guy, who essentially takes Cyclops' ability and is super duper way more powerful. The Mega Minions play the role of being Ramsbottom's secret weapon, which apparently he wants because apparently he's part of the AVL back again, even though he's supposed to be retired. This is all without Gru's knowledge. Gru is completely unaware that this is happening. He thinks that they're just being cared for at like a resort, like what happened with El Macho, where he put all the minions on a funny island. He probably thinks it's something like that. But, you know, there's no confirmation, so how could he ever know about it? That's right, he can't.
Like, imagine you have a child, and they come back home from, like, daycare, and you see them with a laser in their eyes. They got a laser right now.
Well, that is funny. Equally, what if you leave your child with a caretaker and you come back from your day at work to see that your caretaker has started putting your child to the mines, has just started putting them to work without your consent? That's what happened.
They just put them to work.
Yep.
Without their consent.
Let's remind ourselves here. It is a really, really funny scene. The Mega Minions are put to work actually trying to save the city to see if they are good enough to be the new secret weapon for Ramsbottom. They go through a scene where they do a bunch of saving the city tropes. However, the minions kind of mess it up because they're kind of incredibly stupid, and that's, you know, their main gimmick. That's perfectly fine. What's not fine is that immediately after this, even though they have their own like pep talk and no actual training to go along with any of the concepts being brought to light here, Ramsbottom just says, you guys failed, so that means you're also retired. But you know what happens with the retirements in this series? They don't matter. It seems Mega Minions are put off to retirement. They just aren't allowed to train. They aren't allowed to possibly be the super weapon that Ramsbottom wants them to be. And all they get to be is actually the secret weapon if he just wants them anyway. He's just like, okay, I guess I fucked up. You guys should definitely help us win this fight. In the final fight, when Gru's been compromised because the old lady has found Gru and is threatening them, not even threatening the children, just threatening them. Ramsbottom puts to work the Mega Minions, who are all on separate sides of the Earth for some reason. One of them is like in Sweden. Might even be Fredonia from Despicable Me 3. They all very clearly are shown having harnessed their crafts. The guy with the super laser that can carve his way through the entire Earth is now able to control it and mold cheese with it, which is really cool. I would have loved to see him properly be able to use that laser on his face. Does he get to use it?
No.
The chunky boy goes gambling and just has a bunch of money with him. The flying minion didn't really show to have harnessed his craft, just kind of made friends with the birds. String Cheese Man is able to use his hands like lassos and is now able to herd bulls, which is really cool. It shows that he's expertised in his abilities. Mega Dave, who's supposed to be super strong, now is able to control his strength and carefully looks after some bees, which is adorable. So it's very clear that when these minions are able to properly train and be by themselves, they were able to be a pretty good set of Mega Minions, which would have been great for them to come back. Even if the retirement thing happened, I would have brushed it off, okay? But the Mega Minions are called back to help Gru, and they're all actually good at their superheroing abilities now, and they don't get to show off any of it. None of it matters. They don't get into the fight. They come incredibly late and finish the Cockman when he's already dead. What was the point of the Mega Minions?
You can't just do the Cockman like that. You gotta be there. You can't just finish him off.
Something that I have wrote in my notes is that this movie, Despicable Me 4, is written like a Monty Python movie about the Despicable Me universe. It has a bunch of separate ideas that it tries to sort of put in and makes little funny skits about, and the skits are funny. Don't get me wrong. The movie is funny if you treat it like a Monty Python, where it's not supposed to be serious. There isn't actually a overarching story, and we just have a general abstract goal that you're supposed to be achieving, of defeat the Cockman. However, none of the ideas that it really goes for, of double life, blackmail, mega minions, Gru having a child, and the children being upset with the double life, none of those really get time to shine, so they all kind of feel like they're forgotten equally. Which may have been problems with runtime, but I think it was problems with the writing. Not being able to decide what sort of main concept or what main storyline they wanted to go for with this movie. Because going back to the question of, was it worth making a fourth movie? Yes. It's very clear by this that the team behind Despicable Me has all of the concepts that they need. They have every single idea in the bank of something that would make a really good Despicable Me movie. But it appears that with the writing, none of them could decide which ones they wanted to focus on, and thusly did about 5 ideas all in one, with additional ideas scattered throughout, which is why we got a bunch of one-off characters, which is why we got a bunch of one-off ideas, and it's why about 3 of the main concepts don't matter to the main plot. Let's take a quick recap. Let's take a quick retrospective on the Despicable Me topics.
Yes.
So, for the first one, what are our main concepts?
So it's about Gru getting over his trauma. He was built up to not succeed. He's kind of looked down upon.
Because he's supposed to be a loner character who's neglected by his mother and therefore is trying to prove something of himself. That is the main concept. He is a loner who has not been able to prove his salt, therefore goes for big things like stealing the moon. We have lots of villainy. He's some big bad guy who is able to beat Vector. It's very clear that they have a rivalry because we are shown their introduction and we are shown a sort of progressive rivalry. That they start to kind of hate each other because they are in competition over funding from the big villain man at the villain bank. Additionally, he adopts the children so that they can sell Vector Girl Scout cookies. And then he evidently has to keep them because he can't just sell adopted children back to the adoption center. That's not how that works.
He tries to get them away though.
He then begins to care about the children, so they are the secondary factor of it. Primary factor is that Gru is not good enough, he's trying to prove himself, and the secondary factor is, in a very badly thought out scheme, he adopts children in order to progress his mission, and then has to end up keeping them, which means he develops a care for them.
I hate when that happens.
It creates some absolutely great scenes.
You know, with these children, he grows as well. He grows as a character. He grew.
Movie number 2. What are our concepts? Go on, run me through them.
El Macho. He takes Gru's minions.
He rivals Gru by seeing the potential in the minions and trying to harness it for himself in a more frantic and aggressive way.
And Dr. Nefario is on his side.
Oh yeah, also he takes Dr. Nefario. What this villain does in the second movie is try to take everything Gru has and fight it against him. So now Gru doesn't have the power of his minions. He has to go on his intuition and his tools. Essentially meaning Gru has to fight himself. Except himself is now incredibly tough and crazy. And that is the main concept for the villain. And the main concept for the family life is getting a new interest. We are introduced to the AVL. And we are introduced to Lucy, who is supposed to be our new interest, because Gru has to get a mother for the adopted child. Again, he has to do a short-sighted thing that then has to stay with him because of essentially either mistakes or just story progression. In 3, we are introduced to Gru's backstory, the history that he has. The children aren't really too important in 3, but their scenes are still pretty funny. We see some developments. We get Lucky the goat. We got to see Lucy develop as a mother. So there was always something progressing. Let's go back to 4, the disappointment child of this series so far. What are our concepts? So consistently, it's been the villain has some sort of development with Gru. The children have some sort of development within Gru as a father. And some side plots can go on that main concept. What is the main concept for 4? I'm gonna help you out here. It's the double life. The core concept that is supposed to be for this one is the double life.
what is it? Was it like Gru's got to be a father now to like his actual born child?
You have to be a guy that sells solar panels.
You have to fit into society more. Mm-hmm. If you're going to retire from villainy, then you got to be more socially acceptable. You have to.
Great concept. How did it get performed in the movie?
It was actually meeting the neighbor.
The neighbor was the main focus for Gru, right?
Yeah, like he tries his best to try to fit in.
Yeah. And how well does that go? We get 2 scenes with him. One where a minion instead is the driving force. The minion doesn't actually use any gadgets. He just pretends to be a referee and messes with Perry. Perry is the neighbor, by the way.
Hi, Perry.
Hi, Perry.
There's no real conclusion.
What development gets made from doing this double life?
There's no development.
The child doesn't become a cockroach.
Child doesn't become a cockroach.
The Gru doesn't have to be in society anymore. It's temporary. The cockman gets uncockroachified and put into regular security prison, which I guess he's just unable to escape from for some reason. What other things are the concepts of the movie? There's blackmail. Didn't really matter. There's the old teacher trying to chase down Gru for revenge. Didn't really do anything, did it?
No.
Did the children develop anything? Get any new friends? Not really.
Margot tries, but gets bullied at school. And they'd never brought that up again.
Is there literally anything we can point at to say this is the development of Despicable Me 4? This had a reason to be a part of it?
Lucy didn't really grow, Margot didn't really grow, Edith's still the same, Agnes is still the same, Drew didn't even exist, and Fario just appeared.
So yeah, the core problem with Despicable Me 4 is that nothing happens. The way that they ended up writing it removed all of the potential for a good development in Despicable Me 4. I would say it felt more so like 5 episodes of the Despicable Me TV series that they just magically make, all matched into 1 hour. Because they had 5 consecutive sort of concepts which were great for the Despicable Me franchise, but don't do anything and don't conclude. So they would have been perfect. Perfect! If for some reason Despicable Me had a show. They could condense those stories down, but they tried to make it a movie and it clashed with itself. It had to develop something, but it didn't actually develop anything at all. And it just became really boring. Now, I have one more gripe, okay? Being blackmailed for being a villain. Let's look at this a bit more critically for a second. If Gru is exposed for being a villain, who is he exposed to? Is he exposed to the villains, who very clearly either all know or don't know that Gru is a villain? So it doesn't really matter because he can fight them off, but it would be kind of annoying. However, all of the villains he's bested and are pissed off are in jail, shown by the final cutscene. So instead, let's think, I'm going to expose you to the police. Great idea. The police are authority figures. They'll deal with Gru because he's bad, right? He's a villain. We know that. But Gru works for the AVL. All of his crimes are cleared, and he's a good guy now. So that's not blackmail. So who's she gonna blackmail Gru to?
Their parents.
And what will they do?
They'll not want to hang out with Gru. Therefore, make
Gru
not being able to socially fit in.
Oh no! Oh no! That doesn't do anything.
Going back to normal.
Conclusive thoughts on the movie.
Conclusive
We
thoughts
have
on the
finished
movie.
going through all of our topics now, or should be, if I've edited this correctly. And you guys will now be seeing our conclusive thoughts. Kag, would you like to go first, or should I?
You know what? We gotta let the King of Fools.
King of Fools, okay.
First.
Let's quickly go back to the question of, should there have been a 4th movie? I think yes. As I said before, there was clearly enough topics for them to make a compelling story with the double life and stealing their children, I guess. Although that is kind of overdone in the Despicable Me series. I believe that the movie was enjoyable if you treat it like a Monty Python film, where the story doesn't quite matter and you are only there to see the funny gags within a certain core concept. As that is the way that the movie was written, in my opinion. Still, again, enjoyable, but not quite the Despicable Me movie I was hoping for. I wish there was more gadgets. I wish there was more funny moments with the characters that we've got already established, like Lucy, Dr. Nefario, if they could voice him, which they did, by the way. And I think that they just needed a bit more time to cook on a lot of topics to make it more refined and not have it so bloated with ideas that they don't end up using. So overall, I would give it a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10 on what?
On a movie scale, I don't know. What are the movie ratings? Quick, give me a...
on the full scale. It's a scale
10 baby Groos out of 10.
Which equates to 2 out of 10, but due to inflation, it is now a 4 out of 10.
It's a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10.
I think the movie was enjoyable within using the context of the Despicable Me franchise. I do not think it was a good addition to the story. It could have easily have been another set of shorts that they added. The cockroach villain was not a compelling villain, and therefore kind of ruined it being a compelling story at all. So my final verdict is underbaked. Kagami, you're up.
It's been underbaked, and between Despicable Me 3 and Despicable Me 4, there has been a 7-year gap. Why was this? But was it worth making this film? That's the thing. If we're talking in a profit standard, then yeah, sure, this film is always going to make money. And, people do like this series in comparison to Illumination's other series. Yeah, there's fans of them, but people always prefer The Adventures of Gru. People can get nostalgic over it. This film is always gonna work for some people, but for me, it wasn't the same. It honestly was kind of a disappointment.
I hope they do better on the next one and refine their ideas.
Will there be a next one? There is. That doesn't even need a question answer.
That's a stupid question.
There is.
They put a whole timeline out of the Mega Minions being the main star.
Yeah. Are the Mega Minions ever going to turn back to normal? They probably aren't, but according to the next film, they probably are.
So your conclusive thoughts, give them now.
I hope the Mega Minions come to my Make-A-Wish.
Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed our ramblings. This has been the first episode of Slop Topics. We probably could get a better name for that, but it sounded funny. Maybe there'll be installments of this. We don't know, but if it's interesting enough, I'll certainly make more. Do show your appreciation in the comments, likes, and blah blah, YouTuber stuff, subscribe, join Discord. It's really fun. I do more streaming than I do video making, so you'll see me over there. Bye-bye.
This will be on my digital footprint. I can't escape from this. Please make it worth it.